Welcome back to the Tech Zone. I'm Paul Amadeus Lane. So happy you decided to stay back with me here on the show, or to come back with me on the show. I come up with these Paulisms sometimes when I speak, and I confuse everybody and even myself sometimes. But really, I have education when it comes to broadcasting. I went through all the colloquialisms and everything, but I just always goes back to Paulisms, right, Sean? So, hey, we kind of teased this in the beginning of the show. Cyber security. As we continue to make technological advances, the threat of identity theft is real. But what can help us out? What can help you and I to make sure that our identity is safe, we're secure when we're shopping with our devices online? How can we make sure that things are safe? When it comes to safety, though, as humans, we don't really want to take a lot of steps in ensuring our safety. You know, think about it. Sometimes we go to different websites. They have the two-step authentication. Paulism almost came out right there. Authentication. See, I said it right. And I know it makes me mad. You ever get that? Press the ones that have stop signs or roads. You are wrong. Are you a human? No, I'm not a human. I'm a bot. I mean, come on. Things can get better. Things should be easier in this technological advanced age in which we live in. Our next guest is going to talk about the innovation that his company is doing when it comes to AI and biometric. I'm sure you're going to be intrigued by what we're going to talk about. And I'm so happy right now to be joined by the CEO and founder of Zigra, talking about my man, Deepak Dutt. What's going on, Deepak? How you doing?
Good. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing fantastic. And before I brought you on, we kind of talked a little bit about biometrics and what it is. But I'm going to leave the real definition to the scientists here. So, Deepak, why don't you let our audience know the definition of biometrics?
Sure. Paul, so biometrics is essentially using a characteristic that you are in authenticating yourself. So what are you? So it starts with your fingerprint. It could be your iris scan. It could be the way you walk. It could be anything that's attached to your body, if you may, right? The size of your ears. It could be the size of your nose. It's something that's kind of very unique to you, right? And that's what essentially a biometric means. Now, it can be both static biometrics, it could be a dynamic biometrics, but we can get into the definitions of those as we kind of go along, because static is something that never changes, like your fingerprint. And there's something that's more dynamic, that is the way you walk, the way you sit, the way you stand, that becomes more dynamic, that's more in motion and such, if you may.
And another kind of concern that ones have out there, and your company is really meeting the needs of this, is when it comes to m-commerce. You know, I remember when it was e-commerce, now it's m-commerce, because, you know, the mobile devices that we're using and things like that. And let's talk about some of the challenges out there that consumers face when it comes to security, when it comes to m-commerce.
Right. So you see, m-commerce kind of has taken different forms from online commerce. It's not only on the browser, but it's now people have native applications for that seamless experience, if you may. And as more and more transactions need to happen, the friction has to be taken away from the entire process. And that's where the retailer's biggest concern is abandoned shopping carts. So from a convenience perspective, they want to provide a very frictionless experience to their end users. Whereas as soon as you bring in a level of security, then the experience is broken. That's what's happening today. And there are solutions in like the 3D secures, the biometrics and such. But again, it always comes back to the point that can you recognize the user behind the scenes, so that when it comes to authenticating them or coming to a transaction, can you automatically do that without causing any friction in the user journey, right? So what we say is, as the user goes through their journey, be them walking, sitting, standing, or swiping through the screens, we know based on their behavioral characteristics that it's them, right? And then you can add a lot of environmental intelligence into the picture. So at any point in time, you know you're interacting with a real user, and when it comes time for that purchase, it's just a matter of tapping on that confirm button or swiping on your screen, and that's it. right? And 90% of the time, you can reduce the friction in the user journey by going through this kind of continuous mode. And friction comes into the process only when there's a large suspect happening, right? And I think that's the way forward that mobile commerce transactions going to take place is minimize the amount of friction and provide a very high level of security behind the scenes. And friction comes in when everything's broken.
And that takes us to our next point of discussion when it talks about the technology that you guys are implementing over at Zigra and how you are leveraging the AI over there, and talk about that process, how you and your team came up with the solutions that are helping out your customers out there, and in turn how the customers are helping out the consumers, and everybody's just happy with security.
Absolutely. So back in 2009, we had this vision to make security invisible, implicit, kind of seamlessly applicable to everybody. I mean, early on, security was very complicated, right? It kind of started with pins and passwords, and it kind of said, going to have certificates on mobile devices. It was very complicated. And we said, how do we make it available so that everybody's protected without them having to take any extra steps? And that's where we approached some of the leading minds here and some of the top universities here in Canada to bring together technologies like artificial intelligence, behavioral biometrics, and sensor analytics to answer this question: how do we determine a specific user behind a device or transaction very seamlessly? And then we ran an experiment with around 25,000 users across 70 countries on 700 different device types, gathering around 6 billion data points. And what we found out was that each and every one of us had a pattern, a way of interacting with our phones, apps, tablets, and such that was very unique to us. That's as unique as our DNA or the muscle memory associated with our golf swings and tennis swings and such. So it is that uniqueness that we have taken, and then using AI, right? We take these sensor-based information, we use AI, we bring in information from 6 layers. Again, this technology is patented, where we bring in information from the device, network, location, social, biometric, and behavioral layers, bring it to our AI engine so that we can get a 360-degree view of the user, a full 360-degree view of the user, so that we can make sure and give our customers a high confidence that they're dealing with a real user and not a robot, or they're not dealing with a fraudster, or they're not dealing with any kind of cybersecurity attacks, right? So this is what we're doing in a nutshell at Zigra. And all these algorithms are proprietary, kind of developed over the last 8 years.
And Deepak, one thing has really struck me about the company Zigra is how it was created out of the frustration that you had when it comes to security and authentication. And, I think when companies are founded on that premise, I think you really see like the love and the compassion that you have for ones out there who have similar frustrations. And talk about, when you first thought about creating this company to where it was today, some of the challenges that may have stood in the way to where you guys are, at today as a company.
Absolutely. So early days, we started very early in the academic space. And one of the things that we required was the sensors available on these kind of devices, right? Touchscreens, accelerometer, gyroscopes, and such. And when we started off, this never existed in all smartphones. So that's why we did this large space test across all these different countries, capturing $50 smartphones to $1,000 iPhones, right? So the iPhones, for example, had all the sensors that was required. Some of these $50 phones didn't have any of those. But today, technology has matured, the prices of these sensors have come down. It's come down to a stage where all these smartphones now have the basic sensors that are required for our kind of technology to work, right? So that was a big challenge for us. Now that's in place. From a regulation perspective, more and more security is required for these kind of devices now, and perfectly aligning with the marketplace where biometrics is now taking off. People understand biometrics on smartphones and such, and now it's kind of it kind of taken for granted in the consumer space. So that coming together of market, technology, and regulations is kind of created a very good impetus for a technology like ours. Though we had to kind of wait a while, we kind of build a foundation that's going to help us for today and then the future.
And how important it is to think in the future when it comes to this type of technology, because we know hackers, every day they're looking for ways to to try to infiltrate all of our information and our identity. Black hats out there. A lot of people are doing some things. So talk about how to think forward for the future, because when you implement this, I'm sure the team is working on other things right now too, right?
Absolutely. So where, again, our IP is kind of structured is in the sensor-based space. So today we got mobile, we got laptops, you got ATMs, POSs, all being sensor enabled, right? Now we go into a world where there are wearables, there are smartwatches, then going to be drones, there are going to be all these connected cars, IoT, smart homes. So all these devices are going to be now sensor enabled. Now this is the place where now Zigra plays. It started off in the smartphone world, and the username passwords were a problem. We're talking about 3 to 5 billion username passwords getting compromised. But now think about all these sensor-based devices. Now we went from a 3 billion username password problem to a 300 billion username password problem, and this is where our technology works. And the way it has to work is very seamless. So let's say you're walking towards an ATM, or you're going to your car. By the way you walk, you authenticate to your device locally on your phone that's sitting in your pocket, and the phone authenticates to the car, or the phone authenticates to the ATM. So by the time you're in front of the ATM or in front of the car, we have already authenticated you, right? So the ATM knows that's Deepak coming closer to the car. I know closer to the ATM. So by the time I'm punching in my numbers or trying to withdraw cash, the friction's really gone down, and the security's really gone up, right? So this is where passive authentication becomes very important in the world going forward. Think about you walking into your smart home, and the home already knows who you are and starts taking actions based on what you're saying without having to explicitly authenticate every single time.
Fascinating. And for someone like myself, I'm disabled, confined to a wheelchair. Now, will we get to the point where technology will even look at my movements, the way I drive my chair, Absolutely. The way I run into walls and things like that? Will it even learn that as well?
Based on the way you sit, based on the way you hold, based on the way you type, taking all those things into considerations. Again, what we are looking for is what is behavioral for a person? What do they do in their normal patterns, right? So those are the things that we are looking at to authenticate. So that could be the way, how fast you kind of roll along, right? So again, what's habitual for you is what we take. So the way we've kind of structured this technology and the vision for the company is it has to be applicable for everybody, not few people, but seamlessly applicable to everybody. And that's the vision and that we're working towards. So definitely a brave new world.
Fascinating. And Deepak, congratulations. A few weeks back, a patent was granted for Zigra. And talk about that latest patent.
So that is a very interesting patent that we applied for back in 2012. So after 4 years of research, we decided we had something very good to contribute to the world, and put together the patent. Again, what it does is brings together sensor information, brings together the 6 layers of authentication, which we call N dimensions of authentication. So we're taking a look at the device, the network, as I mentioned before, the location, the social intelligence. What is crowdsourced information telling us? We're taking a look at the biometric patterns that are coming in and the behavioral patterns of the user. Now, think about taking that in, bringing it into our core artificial intelligence engine, adding all the sensor information from accelerometers, gyroscopes, touchscreens, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, bringing all that in and into an engine where we can start correlating. So let's say you're driving your car. I can authenticate you based on the way you drive your car. Now I take that information, say, okay, I'm going to take the accelerometer information from the car, associated with the accelerometer information on the iPhone or your smartphone, and authenticate them against each other. And if authentication goes great, I love it, right? So I can start doing transactions in my car without having to authenticate any further. But if the authentication falls below a specific threshold, we step it up using two-way communications and make sure that it's a real user, and so the transaction can still go on per se, right? So this is a technology that learns behind the scenes, passively behind the scenes, brings the best in machine learning in, and invisibly authenticates you. So that's what the patent is about. And we're very excited about it. Kind of helps us take our place in the marketplace.
Fascinating. I tell you, that has to be exciting for you and the team, to have this. It's like, wow, this is awesome. We're pioneers when it comes to this. So congratulations again. And you mentioned iPhone. Now, Apple just announced facial recognition for the new device. Are there any concerns when it comes to this? Can somebody do like a hologram? Have we gotten to that place now where we can shapeshift our face with holograms, or what kind of concerns do you think are out there?
I think people still have certain privacy concerns from a camera perspective, right? I mean, a lot of people still hide their cameras. They put a sticky around it, on top of it, so that it does not continuously monitor them. So there's good uses from there from a biometric authentication perspective, but there are concerns around applications coming out that can now control this, and instead of using it for facial recognition and stuff, now they're use it for scrupulous purposes, right? They could take a picture of your location where you are, right? So it kind of invades into your privacy and such. So people have a lot of concerns as it comes to facial recognition and having a camera on all the time. Per se. So we'll have to see how the kind of market reflects on this kind of technology coming out, and how much it kind of invades privacy. I'm pretty sure Apple's kind of thought about these kind of angles as well. So it will be interesting to see what they come out with and what the hackers are going to do in retrospect. So fun times.
Yeah, because on that dark web, somebody's talking about how to hack everything right now as we speak. So, but I'm glad, absolutely. I'm glad companies like Zigra out there are helping us to combat that. Now, is there anything else that we failed to bring out about Zigra, about any other news you'd like to articulate out there to the audience out there?
So again, it comes back to our vision, right? So we're looking for very interesting use cases where again we can make our technology very seamlessly applicable to everybody, right? And if there are, specific cases that need to be dealt with, that can help us further our mission. We're looking for opportunities. We're looking for getting great people into our team. We're looking to grow further and make a vision reality across all geographies. So would love to have people join us in this mission.
Awesome. And I'm sure, through our conversation, they can just sense, how cool it is to work for you, Deepak, because you seem laid back, chilled, but you seem like business though. It was time to do business. It's time to do business. So how can one find out more information about Zigra?
So we could go to our website at www.zigra.com. Can reach out to us through there. Can take us for a demo, try it out. Again, we've been kind of focusing on mobile commerce companies, payment companies, wallets, rewards, travels, and such. So anything mobile and anything to the connected world, be it connected cars and such, would love to hear. Can sign up for a free trial at the bottom of the screen that Paul is kind of going through. So reach out to us, or you can email us at info@zigra.com.
And Deepak, what companies? I know you mentioned some of the companies that this is like fit for. What other companies? Any more companies out there that can really, use this type of innovation?
Absolutely. As I said, any kind of mobile company can use this kind of technology, right? We have SDKs available for both Android and iOS and other browsers and applications per se. So any mobile application developer can essentially start using our technology, and feel free to kind of reach out to us on that aspect. But again, that is what's available right now today. But in our labs, we have really fun stuff cooking, from, as I said, from a connected car perspective, to a drone perspective, to an ATM perspective, and smart home perspective, right? And any sensor-based devices that's out there that needs to kind of have this kind of cool factor to it, to have this kind of security seamlessly built into it, right? Those are all applications and that Zigra can get involved in.
Awesome. Well said, Deepak. I really enjoyed our conversation on biometrics and security and identity theft, and how we can keep our identity safe, and how your company is in the forefront of helping us with your innovation. And we really appreciate having you on, and we look forward to chatting with you in the future. Okay.
Thank you very much, Paul.
I'd like to thank Deepak Dutt, CEO of Zigra and founder, for joining me on this segment of the Tech Zone. Really food for thought, isn't it? The way technology is growing, and how his company's at the forefront in securing all of our information and our data, and how they're continuing to make sure that they are heading off any threats that are out there. And the cool thing about it, he's a scientist. He's smart. Not like me. He's smart. I got to hang around with Deepak a little more. Maybe I'll get a little smart and no more Paulisms will come out. Hey, when we get back, we're going to talk about what's going on in the gaming world. We know the Xbox One X is coming out. Did I get mine yet from Microsoft? My advanced review copy? Only time will tell. That's why you have to follow me on social media. I let all that stuff out of the bag. Don't be resistant. PaulAmadeusLane.com. I'll put an S on everything sometime. Don't be resistant. Yeah, I said it right. Paulisms galore during this segment. We'll be back with more Tech Zone.